Welcome back, everyone, to our game design playthrough of Portal. We resume where we left off last time, test chamber 14 out of 19, although that's a lie. Anyways, we're here. You might recognize this chamber. So, one of the first things you need to realize or pay attention to is what's going through. This is a very important part of game design, knowing what's going through the player's head at any given point in the game, and just sort of being able to track what their thought process is and think about it and possibly try and change it one way or another using your game design. And so right here, what's very important is to look at what the player sees first and last, and sort of what's going through their mind as they enter this chamber. The first thing they see is the exit, very clearly marked. There's a little platform that they have to somehow activate with something by following that path, whatever that thing activates. And it's the first thing they see. They know exactly where the exit is. They know ultimately exactly where they're going in this chamber. They know that right off the bat. They'll come out here, they'll look around. Second thing they'll probably see is this button. They'll probably go over, look at it, maybe try doing that, realize they can't do anything. So they know, okay, there's a cube somewhere, and I gotta put it on this button. I obviously can't go this way, and so they try going this way. And so you'll notice that this is in the reverse order of how you actually have to solve this puzzle. You see the last item, then the second last thing, and then the most current thing that you have to go and do in order to move your way towards solving this puzzle. These handy-dandy stairs, which are actually kind of important. Notice as soon as you get to the top, they drop away and create a nicely formed pit. Now, you need, there are alternate ways to get up to that cube, but you need this pit here in order to do a fling in order to get to this cube, which is what the player should eventually figure out. I believe this is the first fling that the player has done sort of unassisted, like without being in a test chamber that is specifically made for flings with platforms coming out of the wall and everything to make it very sort of obvious that this is a fling place and here's where you should be flinging. This is the first time you're really applying it in the field, so to speak. You notice the light right on top of the cube to make it nice and bright and stand out. So you have to place a portal up here and then one down in the pit and fling yourself onto there. Now, part of this pit going up and down, it's convenient because it allows you stairs going up and a pit going down. It's just convenient placement, but it also draws your attention to it. You notice, oh, hey, the stairs are moving. They're moving away, and that creates this pit, which, because it's moving, it's more conspicuous. You notice it. Even the orange thing around there, that glow from the underneath, makes it very conspicuous. You realize, okay, this is a pit. What have I used pits for before? Oh, the fling. And then they'll remember that they can fling from there and get to it. Another thing that the player might have figured out up until this point, I didn't do it actually to get up here, I probably should have, but this is a really long hallway. It didn't actually need to be this long, but it's sort of set up like this to separate the different components, the exit from the receiver and the cube up there to the button and the sender, which is through the pellet dispenser or whatever that you'll see through this door later. But one of the things that the player might have figured out at this point is that you can use portals to travel distances very quickly. So instead of having to run all the way up these stairs, you can just put a portal there, walk through, and oh no, I did that wrong. A portal there, and walk through, and you're up. And so if the players figure this out, it's not required to solve the chamber or anything. It's just convenient. It's a sort of nice, convenient thing. Alright, let's get that cube. And you'll notice that once I get the cube, the stairs go up and they stay up. Which is, again, the pit there has served its purpose. Now it gets closed off, and these are just stairs, which are there both for convenience and for just to sort of indicate that you have done what you needed with that pit. So the next thing the player will do, again, they can use portals if they're sneaky and traverse this area very quickly, but they'll probably just walk across, place the cube, and then go through here. Now they'll remember the receiver that they saw up there. They'll walk through here, and we'll get to this. Now, most players at this point, they might try jumping across, but they'll remember what they've been taught several times before, that you can cross a pit like this pretty trivially easy, just like that. And that brings us to here. So we remember the pellet receiver that was back up in the previous area. And we have the pellet sender. I don't know what that's called. Dispenser? Sure, that's a good word. Pellet dispenser here that you can use. So there's a little bit of a leap here. The player's they'll probably they'll say, okay, I need this one here, and I need that one, but then I can't get across here. So they'll do one of two things. Either they will jump across manually in order to preserve the portal that they just placed there, which is not actually necessary, as you'll see in a moment. They might either jump across here, or they will realize that I can put the orange one there, put the blue one here, just make sure I don't get hit by the pellet, and use this here in order to cross the pit more easily. They can jump across, that works as well. But this basically sort of has the player think about the fact that sometimes a portal will be placed in a place where you need it to solve the puzzle. And then as long as it has to be there, where it has to be at the place where the pellet goes for the center over there, as long as it's there, they can't use portals in the way they normally have to solve puzzles, because one of them's currently in use. And so the player has to sort of work around the limitations that are now in place because they've put a portal somewhere and they've got to deal with it and use the portal setup that they've been forced to use in order to solve the puzzle. And that's how you cross the pit there. And then the last thing that the player needs to do is place a portal up there to get it into the receiver. And again, stairs are here and everything. It's nice and easy. There's the very obvious orange light. Makes it easy to even place from way back here. And they'll do that. Now you'll notice, if I haven't pointed this out before, I don't believe, the reticle I think that's the correct term, the reticle in the middle of the screen shows you which portal you last placed, which is this comes from playtesting and sort of the developers looking at what frustrated players and what mistakes they would make. And one of them is placing a portal, going somewhere, and then forgetting whether you placed the blue or the orange one back wherever you placed it. And that's what this helps alleviate. So I know that one that I placed, in order to pass through, the portal that I placed so that the pellet would pass through is the blue one. So I can put the orange one up here, and the pellet goes through. And that activates it, that activates the lift. You'll notice GLaDOS actually draws attention to the lift, in a funny way, but that way you realize that, the lift is over here in case you forgot it when you first walked in. Now, there is actually an alternate way to solve this puzzle, and that is, while these stairs are up right now, so I can't demonstrate it, but while these stairs are down, and there's a pit here, you can do a form of a fling by jumping into the pit, placing a portal underneath you, and having already placed a portal here that will shoot you upwards. And that will shoot you upwards high enough to get onto this platform while it's still while it's still at its top there, at the top position. And, the developers could very well have restricted this by placing non-portalable surface around the perimeter of this lift. But they didn't. They left it open so that if the player does figure this out, they're rewarded for it. It's a sort of unique and different way of solving the puzzle. And it requires thinking out of the box. The player hasn't been taught or anything how to... they haven't been taught the technique of sort of dropping into a portal with velocity and having that shoot you not out of somewhere high, but up out of the ground. They haven't really been taught that yet. So if the player can figure this out on their own, they get rewarded and they get a free solution to the puzzle. And onwards to 15. Test chamber 15 is actually a relatively long one. And it is also a cool one because it is where we learn the double fling. The good old double fling. Which is one of the most fun, arguably one of the most fun moves in the entire game. It's just, you get to move really fast through two portals. It's really fun. Alright, so the double fling. These graphics have been everywhere in the game. They sort of just provide you with little nudges in the right direction to figure out what you need to do. It's two-stage. That should make it obvious enough. So what a lot of players will probably do is you can see the wall panel's been pushed out again, very similar to the last one, so okay, one of them's going to go up there. That makes sense. It sort of looks like a fling. You got to get over here. You obviously can't jump this. You can't place a portal through it. So they obviously have to physically travel through there. A lot of players will try this, and then the first thing they'll do is place an orange one here, and they'll try jumping. And they'll be, okay, that's not going to get me far enough. Or I can try dropping right through an orange one. Okay, that's not going to get me far enough. And eventually, just through trial and error and figuring it out, and possibly coincidence if they place their orange one here, the player will eventually figure out that if they drop through here, they can fall with some momentum into another portal, and that gives them additional momentum, enough to make it over this barrier. And they'll do that. You'll notice that the sort of key area where you have to place the portal in order for your double fling to work is marked with a sort of checkered different color of tiles here. And that just sort of draws your attention to the center area, which is exactly where you need to be in order for this double fling to work. Like that. Okay, this is a sort of more complex version of a pellet portal wall puzzle. So in this one, you have to actually perform, I believe it's either 2 or 3, I'll find out once I do it, 2 or 3 separate portal placements in order to get the pellet through the to follow the correct trajectory and get it into here because of these the emancipation grids. That's what they're called. This would be trivially easy to do without the emancipation grids, and the player might actually try that. They might say, okay, so let's put one here, and then put one in here. Oh, right, I can't do that. And they'll realize they can't do that. Okay, so you got to sort of think out of the box. Now, they've done a puzzle before where they had to bounce the pellet. I mean, you don't actually have to bounce the pellet here. You just have to make it travel through 3 different sets of portals. But inevitably, the player's probably going to end up letting it bounce once just so that they have time to put the portals in place. But they basically need to, they'll probably solve this step by step. They'll realize, okay, there's one there, so the out portal, I need to get it over here. So I can like put it here. And they'll, oh, okay, so that gets me in there. And then they realize that they can cross over here, and while it's still bouncing, put one there, and that will solve it. And again, the black marks on the spots on the wall where the pellet hits are very useful in sort of indicating to you where you might want to place a portal. Not only does it help you aim, but it's sort of, I mean, there's all this surface here where you could possibly place a portal. But when you're dealing with a pellet puzzle, you're basically only going to need to place portals in one of the 2 places at any given time that the pellet is bouncing. And these black marks quite conveniently give you those places. And that helps. It just helps sort of mentally to realize, okay, it's one of these 2 places, so I can put it here, and then I put another one here. Okay, now it's coming out of there, and just sort of help them work towards the solution there. All right. Okay, so a sort of different double fling now. Okay, so basically the purpose of this double fling, I mean, there are 2 things. One is to basically get the idea of that you can kickstart a double fling, and that is that you have the player start the fling over here with a bit of a drop, and then finish it over here. And they'll figure this out because they'll remember doing this in the last chamber. They'll see this. They'll remember that they did their fling out of theirs. They'll put one here. They'll put one here, and they'll, okay, I can't go far enough. The player will realize that. And then this is very sort of clearly denoted. The white borders around the door frames really help, and the fact that this is all non-portable makes it stand out and obvious that you need to go up here. Player will go up here and realize that they can get a little bit of a kick for their double fling by doing this and then fling outwards. Now the secondary and probably the more important purpose of this chamber is to force the player to place the portal, the second or I guess third portal for their double fling while they're in the air. And that's indicated by the icon here and by the fact that you can't just simply drop. The player has to have 1 portal in there in the beginning of the drop and 1 portal up here. And then once they're flying out of there with enough momentum to reach this, again, the checkered area, to reach somewhere around here, they have to place the portal in midair while they're flying towards it. And this is sort of the big thing to teach the player. Now, you could have done it in the previous double fling puzzle, but most players won't have figured that out. But being able to, or understanding that you can place the third portal while you're in the air makes it a lot easier to do the double fling and a lot more fun. And it saves you from having to try and aim stuff in advance. And also there are times when it won't always work to have the portals placed in advance, like this one right here. So of course the solution is to walk here. I've already placed it. Use that to give you a kick so that you make it far enough, place the second portal, and you go flying through. And all is well. Now we have another similar styled pellet puzzle. The player can just do a quick double fling here to get over to the other side. That's just reinforcing it, but it's not the real crux of the puzzle. They already know how to double fling at this point. But the puzzle is getting a pellet back to the receiver over there. And the sort of the new thing about this puzzle is the angled platforms and the sort of added level of intricacy. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not even going to try. Intricacy. There we go. That this adds. So, I mean, if you place a portal here and one out there, it's going to... Well, not that. That's actually the solution to the puzzle. But if you place one portal there and one portal there, it's going to come out at an angle. And we haven't, with pellet puzzles, we haven't really dealt with like that. We haven't really dealt with angles at this point. And this is new. And that's the whole point of this puzzle. That's something new, and that's something you have to think about here. So, there are a couple of different ways that you can do this, but the most obvious one is to place one... Oh, no, actually, that doesn't work. Okay, yeah. So the other thing that the player has to realize about this is that in order to get the pellet going back there, the only place they can place the portal is on this angled surface here, which is denoted again by the conveniently placed sort of red orangey light being sent by the receiver. Now in real life the light wouldn't actually make it there, but it's put there because it makes it obvious that, okay, this is where you got to put the portal. And the fact that you can only place the outgoing portal here is important, because it means that it's coming out on an angled portal, which means you have to go in on an oppositely angled portal, and that's what this is. Now the first thing that the player might try is this, and I don't believe that works. We'll find out in a second. I believe this sends it off on the wrong angle. Yeah, like that. So that doesn't work. But the correct solution is to let it bounce once. So if they go like this, I believe this will solve it. Again, there are two different ways you can do that. Yeah, that will do it. And that way it's going in on the angle that is the opposite of this angle, so that when it comes out on this angle, it is actually going straight and heads towards the receiver where it needs to be placed. And the player can just quickly double fling back, and they're there. Alright, you'll notice that obviously as we're going through the test chambers, now they contain a whole bunch of puzzles, sort of separated by singular solutions. And we've gone through like 3 now. What is it? And then I think there were a total of 5 in this chamber. So this section it's just sort of a new thing that we haven't really done yet with portals. You place the blue one there and the orange one there. I mean, you know how to do this. But it's sort of realizing that once you stand on this portal, you have a brief window where you can see ahead. And that, oh, I missed. The key is that you have to, in that brief window, place your portal even further ahead. Wait until you get back here or somewhere along the wall where you can place it. And then hop through that portal to end up even further along. So if I place the blue portal there, again, it's set up so that the curve is the place where you place the first portal straight ahead. That way you can see around the corner. And you place an orange one here, you can look out. Players at this point are familiar with looking out to wait until the thing's there. You can place one here. The first time I solved this, I actually always placed the portal here and waited for the platform to go all the way in and sort of slide me through onto the next one, but you can place the portal anywhere. As long as the platform is in place, it doesn't really matter. Just go like that, just wait for the next one to show up. And like that. And then there's room there so you can exit. Oh no, I did that backwards. Oh dear. Why would you listen to me when I'm talking about Portal when I really have no idea what I'm talking about? That's where I want to be going. There we go. I'm a game designer. Playing comes second to thinking and talking about games. I'll use that as my excuse. Alright, so final section of this test chamber. Now, I mean, you can see they give you elevators to get up to the sections where the 2 buttons are. You're obviously not going to be able to use the elevators. They're way too slow. You have a time limit on how long you get with these doors open while the buttons are pressed. And you cannot use these elevators. They're here for misdirection. You have to realize that the only way to solve this is to port a portal there and a portal there and really quickly press the button, walk through, press the other button. And they have to do that. They have to have those 2 portals set up in advance and then hit the button, run through, hit the other button. I can actually set it up there so it's a little easier. Hit the other button. And then in the very little time they have remaining, place a portal on the ground there, again marked by the black spot, and up there on the wall platforms that's been extended out, again in order to make it obvious that this is where you're going to place the portal. They don't really want you to have to worry about where you're placing the portal, but just the fact that you have to do a really quick button puzzle just to get 2 buttons pressed really quickly, and then still within the same time frame, set up a pellet redirect in order to get it into there. Again, you'll notice that this is made of glass, so that you can see that that's a pellet receiver in there very clearly, and that it's just blocked by doors. And that if you press one of these, it opens one of the 2 doors. And you can see that even if you're not opening the first door, you are opening the second one. So that being glass is kind of important. Now, if you haven't done this already, just messing around with the game, if you place a portal down here, open the 2 doors, and then drop down out of here, like that, you can get up into that section there. And the game design is actually accounted for this. They actually have a little bit of dialogue that GLaDOS delivers. So if you haven't tried that, do that. Alright, so let's set this up and just solve this. Alright, go. So you get those set up, and then you have to very quickly place that part. Oh no, I screwed up. So what I should have done is place the portal there first and then there. That way, if this passes through, it doesn't pass through the wrong portal combination. So I'm going to have to let that wear out. I'll give that a moment. Again, this is sort of another application of using portals quickly and using portals to travel a distance very quickly. Because now that you have these buttons set up, this is a different style of button that is timed. And so you now have a time limit on what you have to do, and you have to use portals in order to overcome this time limit. And that's something new to the player, basically. So let's set this up again. Let's see if I can do this without screwing up this time. Let's make this even closer. You can actually set it up, do it the other way. You can get this the pellet bouncing between that wall and there, and then activate the two buttons. That works as well. I personally just prefer this method. Alright, so it went away. It's perfect time. So let's not make the same mistake. Let's do that. And that should solve it.
Did you know you can donate one or all of your vital organs to the Aperture Science Self-Esteem Fund for Girls? It's true.
Man, Eric Woolpaw, he's... Don't get me started. He's amazing. Just the writing in this game, and if you played Psychonauts, and Portal 2, it's just superb. It's just superb. But anyways, that will do it for test chamber 15. Only 2 test chambers this time because they are super long. Have fun. See if you can do that little thing if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video.